It's Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, and my new genuine woodruff key should be arriving today. But I've been on the forums just to have a look, and it can be a common problem on Aprilia singles, namely the road tax ones. There is another Aprilia, I think it's called an SSX, and a lot of people race those engines, and they have or can have problems with the woodruff key. People put it together and it'll probably be alright for 10 minutes and then it will go again. Well, apparently there is several schools of thought here, and one is always knock the bike off with the kill switch, not the key. I don't quite understand the theory behind it, but apparently if you use the kill switch, you get a smoother shutdown, whereas if you use the key, apparently there can be residual voltage in the CDI and stuff like that, and it can just cause a few more revolutions, apparently. Don't know how true that is, but if you use the kill switch, it's a smoother shutdown, which puts less stress on anything. Now the woodruff key is there purely for location, it's purely to locate the flywheel. How it stays on is that it's tapered, as you can see. And obviously there's a matching taper in the flywheel. Now fortunately for me, I have got a spare flywheel, but what they recommend doing is cleaning up the flywheel and cleaning up the shaft with a solvent, get it as clean as you can, and then put some lapping compound on the shaft and just give it a like you were grinding a valve in, and it will show you any high or low spots, because it's the taper, the clamping action of the taper, which keeps the flywheel on. So if the keyway has been damaged in any way, it will weaken, and the keyway in the flywheel, it will weaken. Oh, somebody's mowing the lawn. So we're going to do that. You've got to make sure this taper is basically immaculately clean. So I'm going to crack on with that. And also it's imperative that the nut is tightened to the correct torque. It's alright using one of these to undo it, because obviously that's what an impact is for. An impact is not for putting bolts back in. But it needs to be torqued correctly to make sure it's torqued correctly on the taper. Otherwise, apparently they'll just break and break and break. The only other option is, if you can't get the parts, you can't get a crank, you can't get a flywheel, is to then put the flywheel on, clean it all up, put the flywheel on, locate it with the woodruff key, but then spot weld it. But yeah, we'll see. We've got a little way to go before we're down that road, so I'm going to clean up the flywheel with some isopropyl alcohol, otherwise known as panel wash. It's basically acetate. I'm going to clean all that out. What I might do is take the ignition rotor off part of the flywheel. Just actually take the flywheel off, take the ignition rotor off, so it's all just easier to handle, and then get on with cleaning it. Yes, penis. Well, it appears that the inner hub of the flywheel is damaged, and if it's damaged, it means it can't fit on the taper properly, so it will never work. Fortunately, I do have one. I've got one stubborn little bagger of a bolt that's rounded the head off, so we're going to try and get the vice grips and get it from behind, and we'll replace that bolt. But this basically bolts this part of the flywheel to the stator wheel, and as you can see, all the rest are out. It's highly magnetic, and it's picked up all the shit lying around off the floor. But if you can see, if we can get enough light in there, look, you can see the marks on the come on, what's the word, Jim? Flywheel. So that is damaged. It cannot be used. Fortunately, I do have a brand new one. So I'm going to go and get the brand new one, put some fine lapping compound on it, and we'll do the old and that will tell me if there's any high or low spots on the taper. If there is and it doesn't seal correctly, I'm probably going to have to seriously consider welding it on, because it's the only way it will stay put. You'll never get the torque on it without replacing the crank, and if I've got to replace the crank on this engine, basically it's an economic write-off. It just isn't worth it. So we'll see how we get on. Spread clutch is good though, and I'm going to replace these bolts because they're made of cheese. Nice. Compounds on, and I'm just giving it a, well, when I put the camera down, I'm just giving it a thing. Yes, lovely. And this will show up any high spots. As I've said, you've got to be very, very careful that none of the compound goes in any of the oil ways underneath or gets in this bearing. But it's a bit like sex in your 50s. A little bit goes a long way. Alright. What has arrived? It had to come by 1 kilo parcel post at about £9. There she is. Tiny little shit box. As you can see, BMW woodruff key. It goes there. At first glance it actually looks too small, but it should be 4mm by 5mm by 12 point something. But it's only there to locate the flywheel. As I say, the clamping force is provided by the taper. Horses willies. Today I learned that I am a fuckwit. Now, like I say, I've been on the forums and I've been reading up about these. It was specifically about the other Aprilia single, not the Yamaha engine, the other Rotax, and they're all pretty much a commonality of design. That is the original Aprilia flywheel base, which I've now got to bolt the sprag and the stator on. This is the one, the brand new one that I put on when I replaced the sprag. Now you can see the damage in there, look. But hang on, let me rest you on my beautiful knee, and I'll show you something. The taper should make it a snug fit. Penis. Yes. Aprilia. Next to no movement. So when that's torqued up, it's going to be nice and tight on the shaft. Now I have lapsed that one in to this, and I will now re-clean it because obviously I've got Captain Gash on there. So it just shows you this came with the sprag clutch, and I can remember saying at the time it was 1/10 of the price, and all the machining marks and stuff on this, it looks exactly like the Aprilia part, which is why I was happy to use it. The machining marks were exactly the same, but that is the original one, and it isn't wallowed out. That's wallowed out. So I think we're going to go with the original Aprilia. Yes, Jim, that would be the sensible idea, you fucking idiot. And it's just a case of putting it back together. However, I am going to ask on the internety webs. I have got a torque wrench which will go up to the required torquage of the nut. But I don't know whether I trust it. I did recalibrate it, but I don't know whether I trust it. So do I borrow a properly calibrated torque wrench, or do I bite the bullet and buy one? Because it's not like I won't be using it, you know, once a year. Who knows? Right folks, I'm recording this on my telephone, Basically, as I'm hand gestures, as I said in the other video, I've now, that is the original Aprilia hub now. I put the new one on when I did it last time, and it's basically, the inside of it's gone egg-shaped. The golden rule is you don't do this nut up with the dugga gun. You have to get the torque very specific, and the way to do that, there is a bolt on the other side of the engine, an M8, and you remove that, and Aprilia make a special locking tool for about 40 quid, and it screws in, and if you're at top dead centre, there is a notch in the one of the crank weights, I'm guessing, on the other side, and the tool screws in and locks the flywheel. I've just made my own. Basically, it's an M8 high tensile bolt. It's got to be above the 10 point, or ideally a 12 point something in the hardness scale. So I've just made the tool. It's locked as far as I can tell, so what I've got to do now is just double check the torquage of the nut, because it is critical that this goes to the correct torque and you don't over torque it or anything, because what happens is these wallow out if they're too tight, too loose, etc, etc, and that's what breaks the woodruff key. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's the solution, because I could do with this being reliable. ZZR's still off the road, obviously need tyres. I've just rebuilt the brakes, put those back on. Phyllis is all right. Phyllis is good. Actually, I've got an interesting story about Phyllis, which I will tack on to the end of this video. If anybody follows me Facebook, they'll know what I'm on about, but it's about fuel economy. Difference between E10 and super unleaded, basically. I was quite shocked. Anyway, I've got a couple of photographs and what have you to share at the end of this. So what I'm going to do now, double check the torque. I think it's something like a shit straining 180 Newton meters, but I will just double check it. But I'm fairly sure it's 180 Newton meters, that nut. It's basically tighten it till you shit yourself. So, nut successfully tightened to 180 Newton meters, which is shit yourself torque. It's to the point of this is sketchy, and then click, it went. Crank pin held, so that did the job, which will make the job of, if it goes again, future torquing a reasonably pleasant affair. So anyway, I'm going to leave the Loctite overnight to set, and then bung the cover on. Well, I could bung the cover on now, but yeah, can't be arsed. I've just had a Milky Way, the sweets you can eat between your meals without losing your place in the dinner queue. Fatty. Anyway, that's it for this bit. Goodbye. Yes. Hello, YouTube. It's all buttoned back together, and I used the workshop method of locking the crank. They do it with the engine out. There's no need. On the left hand side of the engine, under the clutch cover, there is an Allen bolt, which looks bigger than the rest. It's an M8, this is an M8. And to make the locking pin, all I did was get this is an M8 by about 50 or 60 mil, and it is, if it will fuck arse, kill on you little fucker, a 10 point something. Where's the bloody lens? There's the lens. Come on, focus, you fuck. Anyway, it's a 10 point something hardness, and I tightened the crank nut, Loctited it, tightened the crank nut to 180 Newton meters, and the bolt didn't bend or anything. If you use a softer one, it will bend, and you will not get it out of the case. So yes, so that's how I made the locking pin. It is now raining outside.